What's up, guys? Today we're going to take a dive into the story of Carol Robertson. I'm not sure if y'all ever heard of Carol Robertson before, but when she was 15 years old, she escaped a serial killer. So today we're going to dig up as much information on her as we can. But before we take a dive into the story, make sure y'all smash the sub button and smash the like button. If y'all do not smash the sub and the like button, I hope the next time you go to the store to get some bananas, every one of them's rotten. Carol Robertson was born in 1987. She grew up in Lexington, South Carolina. Lexington was a very quiet and peaceful town. The crime rate in Lexington was very, very low. This was the type of town you could let your teenagers just go and do as they pleased.
Everything definitely felt safe. I would play outside all the time, go on walks through the woods with friends, and never any problems.
June 23rd, 2002, Carol would decide to go spend the weekend with her best friend. The next day, they would come up with a plan.
We woke up that morning and it was kind of like, what are we going to do today? And we thought that it might be a good idea to go to the lake.
They never made it to the lake that day. As they were packing their bags and kind of getting their things ready to go spend the day at the lake, Heather decided she was going to call her mom and let her mom know that they were going to be gone the rest of the day. Was there anything that she needed them to do before they would leave? Heather's mom would say that the only thing that she needed them to do was to water the flowers in the front yard. The kids kind of got excited. They were like, man, this is a really easy task, not knowing that this task would be a big, big mistake.
Heather had to go take a shower. I went and watered the flowers for her.
Carol was still wearing her pajamas when she went outside. It was only going to take her a few minutes to water the flowers, and then she was going to come right on back inside. As Carol was watering the flowers, she would notice a strange car was driving on the road in front of Heather's house. The car would continue driving on down the road and completely drive out of sight. But a few moments later, the car would soon drive back down the road, but this time it would pull into the driveway. A man got out. The man was dressed really nice, and he was holding a stack of magazines as he approached Carol.
So he came over to me and he said, I have some magazines and I saw you outside, and so I wanted to give these to you. Is your mom or dad home? And I said, no, this is not my house. This is my friend Heather's house. And he said, okay, well, what about her mom? Is her mom here?
He would explain to Carol that he was selling magazines and he wanted to leave some samples with the adults of the house. Heather would explain to him that this wasn't her house, that this was her friend's house. He seemed to be very interested in whether adults were around. Unfortunately, Carol didn't expect anything until it was too late. So she would go on to tell him that Heather's parents were not around either. So the man would tell Carol that he would just leave the magazines with her, and whenever Heather's parents would get back, that she would just pass the magazines on to them. Carol said, okay, that'll work. So the man approached Carol and was handing her the magazines. But Carol noticed something was very odd.
He kind of entered my personal space and was like, okay, this feels a little awkward. But then again, he was handing me something. And he came to hand me the brochures with his left hand.
Right as he handed her the magazines, he would pull a gun out with his other hand and he would press it firmly against her neck. She had absolutely no choice but to follow this man and get in his vehicle. But before they would drive off, he would stuff Carol down in a large container and completely seal the lid. As this man was driving, Carol was curled up inside the container. She was in complete panic mode, but she was still trying to listen for anything that could work as a clue as to where she was going.
Pretty familiar with the area, and so I tried to pay attention to where he was going. That way I would know where I was. And I felt him get on the interstate. He drove for maybe 10, 15 minutes before he stopped.
The car finally came to a full stop. The man got out of the car, opened the container lid, and told Carol that he was going to tie her up and gag her. Once Carol was fully tied up and gagged, the man would close the lid down on the container and carry her inside. Once they was inside of his house, he would open the container, untie her, and take her gag off. And Carol would notice something that was really, really strange. His house wasn't scary at all. There were magnets on his fridge. There was notes underneath the magnets of appointment times. There was pictures on the wall and on the end tables and stuff. His house just looked very average, like a normal person's house. This guy was married. His wife was away on a business trip. The whole time Kara was thinking, how could this guy do this type of stuff and get away with it? Also, how did Kara know this information? Well, she made it her mission to escape. This means she would befriend this guy, and she would ask him as many questions as she could so she could gather information to help her escape.
I was, trying to read his mail. I was looking at the magnets on his refrigerator, and I knew who his doctor was. I knew who his dentist was. And I knew, the serial number from the inside of the Rubbermaid container.
This dude clearly enjoyed the casual conversation, as well as the attention she was giving him. So he would go on and tell her about his pet lizards and his fish, and he would also tell her that he was dishonorably discharged from the military. He was actually very polite to Kara. He would also ask her personal questions about herself, and he would write her answers down in a notebook. One of his questions for Kara was, has she ever had sexual experiences before? She hadn't, but that evening, she was violated repeatedly. All Kara could think about was survival. So every minute she spent in this guy's house, she was concocting an escape plan.
Definitely there. At one point he said, we're gonna watch the news and we're gonna see if you're on the news. Let's see if anyone misses you.
Oh my gosh.
And I had been kidnapped 8 hours earlier, so of course I wasn't on the news at that point. He's like, well, nobody misses you.
He was trying to get inside of her head and make her think that she was better off with him. As horrible as this sounds, many monsters like him try this with their victims.
Said, you can go to the police and you can always be the girl who's.
Not only had he done the worst thing to Kara, now he was trying to make her feel ashamed of it. At night, he would make Kara sleep in his bed. He would handcuff her, and he would tie her handcuffs to the bed. He would also tie her legs together and her ankles together, and he would sleep right next to her. Kara fell asleep for a few hours, but she woke up before the sun came up. This was her time to try and escape.
I sort of knew when he was sleeping was going to be the most feasible time.
Kara untied her hand restraints with her teeth. Then she would slip one hand out of the handcuffs and untie her ankles and legs. Then she slowly slid out of the bed and crawled out of the bedroom. She would make her way as quietly as she could to the main door. But this door was a double door, and the first door was an accordion-type metallic door. Kara knew that this first door would make a horrible sound and wake this monster up from his sleep. So she would position herself so she could open both doors at the same time, and she bolted.
And I knew that that door was going to make noise whenever I closed that accordion door. So basically in one motion, I closed the door and opened the other one. And his bedroom window looked out onto the front door, basically.
Kara was thinking that this guy could shoot her from his bedroom window, so she would run as fast as she could for as long as she could until she seen the first car and she would flag it down. She told the two men inside the car exactly what had happened, so they would drive her straight to the police station. Once Kara finally reached the police station, she thought that she was safe, but the officers did not believe her.
The deputy that was there, I felt he did not believe anything that I was saying. I was like, I still have handcuffs on one of my wrists.
But as more officers listened to her story, it was kind of clear that they had to take this serious. They would call her mom. Now it was clear that Kara had been missing for almost 24 hours. But before Kara could see her mom, the police would take her back to this dude's neighborhood. But Kara couldn't really pinpoint exactly where his apartment was, because whenever she left, she was running so fast for so long, she just kind of completely got lost. So the police would finally take Kara to the hospital to get checked out. But she didn't give up on finding this man. She told the police that she remembered his house, the magnets, the mail, the serial number, and even something else.
I knew that there was a woman living there. I knew that she had red hair, because I saw the long red hair and the hairbrush.
This dude's apartment was part of a large complex, so the police would track down the manager. Within minutes, the police was at Richard Ivanit's door. By now, Richard had already left his house, but the police was inside of his house and had all the information they needed to make an arrest.
Began to gather information about where he worked, got some cellular telephone records, different cars he had access to.
They noticed a locker. And whenever they opened this locker, they discovered a true level of horror that surrounded Richard Ivanitz. He was a serial killer. Back in 1997, he had murdered 2 sisters, Kristen and Catherine Lisk. He had kept newspaper clippings of these girls. The police immediately called the FBI and they started a nationwide manhunt. The first thing the police did was contact Richard's family. None of his family had any idea what he had been doing. Shocked and disgusted, Richard's sister would tell the police that she knew exactly where he was, and they had spoke on the phone that day. So the police tracked him down to a motel in Florida. But by the time they got there, Richard was gone. But they were tracking his phone. Soon they would spot his car and a high-speed chase would start. When the police finally had him cornered, Richard would pull his gun out and shoot himself. The horror was over, but this didn't really make Kara happy. Not only did he not own up to his crimes, but the police had no clue whether he had only killed the 2 girls.
It was case closed as far as Kara's case. However, based on the find in the Foot Locker and starting to piece together Mr. Ivanitz's background, this investigation wasn't done yet at all.
Richard was also linked to the abduction and murder of 16-year-old Sophia Silver. DNA from the List sisters was also found in the trunk of his car 5 years after their murder. Imagine being Kara, knowing you were an inch away from being murdered in cold blood, and also knowing that if it wasn't for you, this killer would still be out there taking innocent lives. Kara was so motivated by this experience, she decided to join the police force so she could help stop monsters like this from taking people's lives. She received an award for courage and bravery. As of 2024, she is married, but she is taking a break from the force to help raise her 2 sons. Well, that's it for today, guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed the story of Kara. Make sure y'all smash the sub button, smash the like button, and ring the bell so you get notified every time I go live. I would like to thank my editor that is sitting behind the camera back there with the other monitor plugged in. He's hitting play, he's hitting pause, he's deleting the videos. He is doing everything that I need somebody to do behind the scenes. This is the big dog, and I'm out.